they are perceived as being a man's sanctuary, we're going to talk about how we know that that stereotype actually does exist. So to start off, we interviewed kids ages 7 to 12 about the outdoors. We told them a story about a hunter. We used a name that was gender neutral, and then at the end of the story, we asked them if they thought it was a boy or a girl. And out of the 6 kids, 5 of them thought it was a boy for reasons including they're outdoors, so it's obviously a boy. Girls don't really go outside, and girls don't really hunt. The only outlier was one girl who said that it was a girl because girls are capable of things too. After we saw the children's answers to this, we figured that we should go out and see how this happens among adults as well. So we looked through a popular hunting magazine. We counted the pictures of men versus women, and there was 65 men, 8 women, 3 of which were dressed seductively, and just in contrast to that, there was 25 turkeys. So there was 3 times as many turkeys as there was women. So we concluded that kids get this stereotype early on. They get it from the media, they get it from peers, and then also their main influence, which is their parents. We also noticed that in one of our favorite shows, Duck Dynasty, the men on the show are always out hunting, the women are always in the house cooking, and we found a really great example of an instance where a woman goes against this stereotype and is viewed differently than she was before. So this will show you that.
Are Jeb and Jess coming over? You talk to them?
No, they're eating at their house. They're feasting on the deer.
Did he kill a deer?
No, she killed a deer.
What? Jessica killed a deer.
Yeah, having a wife that can hunt would be awesome.
You know what Jeb said? Said he married a country girl and we married city girls.
Oh, please.
Now, I'm not saying Corey's yuppie, but if she comes home and tells me she killed a deer, my next question would be, did you total the car?
If y'all want us to hunt with you, then y'all need to give something in return. How about we get to pick the movie next time?
All right, fine.
Obviously in this video, it was very apparent that there was some surprise reactions from the females when Willie told them that Jeff's wife had killed a deer. It's kind of interesting because not only are the men surprised and kind of shocked that she killed a deer, the women were also surprised. So it's not just the men supporting the stereotype, it's the women as well. They are discriminating themselves in a sense. Also, when the women agreed to going hunting, they needed something in return. It wasn't just natural for them to go hunting just like the boys did. When we were deciding on this topic, one of the questions that we have to keep in mind is why is it important to talk about this knowledge issue? And we realized that it's really important because lots and lots of men and women, young girls and boys, are affected by this stereotype. As you can see, I mean, we asked young kids, and they already were being affected by it. But then there's also men and women who go against that gender stereotype and are oppressed and looked down upon because of it. For example, if a female was growing up in society and she took a liking to hunting, she may not be able to speak out against society. She might just conform to what she thinks society wants her to do. She might not be able to develop her talents in target shooting. She might miss out on the thrill of a hunt. If her brothers and her dad go out hunting and she has to stay home, she might regret that later in life. She might become comfortable just conforming to society and not speaking out, and she might miss out on a lot of things in life. Also, for boys, teenage boys and younger boys especially, being manly is really important. If a boy does something like sewing or cooking or anything like that, they're called a sissy or a girl, and that is gender discrimination, and it really emotionally damages a lot of people because they're being looked down upon for something that they can't control, because they really do want to go against this gender stereotype, not because they want to be rebellious, but because that's who they are. Also, if a boy was growing up and his brothers or his dad or whoever goes hunting and he's expected to do the same, but he doesn't necessarily feel comfortable doing so, he might just do it and act like it's fine, but it might actually like mentally damage him. He might think that it's not okay or not natural, or it might make him sick. He might have nightmares or what have you. Going deeper into the topic, we are expected to go over the blurs. So the first one, bias. Obviously, we are biased looking into this because we are girls, and through history, you can see that women have been discriminated against more than men, obviously. So I feel as though women have an inclination to blame things on gender, kind of, where sometimes there may not actually be a gender stereotype involved. It's just kind of our default. So in gathering our evidence, we only looked at one magazine, we only looked at one television show, and we only interviewed 6 kids. We didn't get the perspective of the entire population. We just generalized it and projected it on our target population. And also, we are only females. We can consider the male perspective, but we will never be able to see through the male perspective, so it doesn't necessarily even out. So the reason that we chose the pieces of evidence that we did was because, one, the TV show was a very popular TV show that is projected to millions of viewers. It's considered a family show, so it's like appropriate and families watch it together. The second one was our magazine, and our magazine is carried by the school, so it's obviously projected in like an educational system onto students. And our last one was the students. And the students are pretty reliable because little kids don't really have filters on their mouths. They say what's on their minds, whether it's going to hurt the people or not. So they weren't really concerned about hurting our feelings when they said that women don't really go outside. They just said what they thought was true. And then also for the magazine, it's pretty reliable as a source of this stereotype because magazines and other types of media, they take into account what the readers and the viewers want, and that's what they put out. And at the same time, the people are watching it because that's what they put out. So it's kind of a vicious cycle of this stereotype being recirculated and supported by both ends. Our evidence is subject to bias because the way that we view it is different than somebody else would view it, and it's also subjective because obviously not every single person in this country, they're not interviewed for what they want to read in the magazine, see on the TV show. So it's not every single person's opinions being expressed through that. It is a percentage, but it kind of is the vast majority. Also, the stereotype they're talking about isn't that girls can't hunt or that they don't hunt. A male might look at it as being like just the opposite because in stores they do sell female bibs that are camo, they sell female clothing that's camo, hats, whatever. They also sell pink merchandise that is geared towards women, like guns and bows and like arrows with pink clutching and whatnot. But the bows that they sell that are towards females that are pink usually can't pull back as much weight, so they're focused towards like small game or not really like big animals or like necessarily the same animals as what men's stuff is geared towards. And also, it is a stereotype in itself that these bows and guns and stuff are pink because they're kind of assuming that because it's pink, women will want it, and that's a stereotype in itself. Now about our knowledge, for the certainty of our knowledge, we are fairly certain that this is, in fact, a stereotype because it is so well supported in our society. In other societies, however, I don't know, it may not be supported in them, so it might not be a stereotype there, but it really is a stereotype here because you can see it all around you. There's people being affected by it, and it's visible through the evidence that we have. We can also probably conclude that it's also a stereotype in other cultures because since the beginning of time, really, it's been like hunting and gathering. The males go out and hunt, and the females gather like berries or whatever. And although stereotypes to come from, sometimes a bad place. They can be bad. There is value to all stereotypes because there is some fact to them, like Clara just said. From the beginning of time, historically, men were the hunters. That's how it was because men are genetically built to be more muscular. That's how it works. So it really does derive from somewhere, and that's kind of where we get the value of the stereotype because a different culture, maybe viewing our culture, would see this, and then they would know how to assimilate into our culture a little bit better because if a woman from another culture that does hunt moves here and doesn't see this stereotype, she may think that it's, normal, and I'm not saying that it is abnormal, but she might think that it's, normal for women to be outdoorsy here and hunt, and she'll do that, and there is a large chance that she will be looked down upon, she'll be oppressed. She just won't be considered, a normal woman. Like in the video clip that we showed, earlier on in the episode, we didn't show this part, but when Jeff, the one whose wife killed the deer, explained to his brothers that his wife killed the deer, they were all very shocked. And then the part that you saw was when the females were told that she killed the deer, and they were also shocked. So it wasn't something that was normal in their society, even though they do live in Louisiana and hunting is like a daily thing there. So really there is negative aspect to the stereotype, which is that people are being affected, people are being hurt by it. But at the same time, it does give insight into American society by means of hunting, fishing, outdoors activities.